What's up, Chiefs Kingdom, and welcome back to the Arrowhead Kingdom Chiefs Cast Show. Big reminder that all fans are invited to join us for game day. Visit arrowheadkingdom.org to learn more about the group and to find your local chapter. Also, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We are, of course, presented by Complete Weddings and Events, your leading provider of photo, of video, of DJ, photo booth, lighting, and day of coordination services. Visit them at completewedo.com. All right, we have not been very good about keeping up on this year.
Oh, I know it's been kind of like our season, right? But it's
Well,
been
exactly.
we're still winning. We're still in the driver's seat. So things have been a little unorthodox, but hey, we're here.
Hey, life's chaos. That's where we're at more than anything. You and Brian got us back on track last week. We're going to keep this going and see what we can do about finishing the season out strong. As for the Chiefs, they're 11 and 1.
11-1. 11-1. I'm so
Well,
glad that we're not undefeated because toward the beginning of the summer, I was like, if we're undefeated, it's gonna be I don't know, that could be a big letdown. But I hated that we lost to the Bills, but we always lose to the Bills in the regular season.
well, exactly. I don't know. I think that's about the least dramatic of the teams that we've played so far to lose to.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, last week, we've been called all kinds of frauds. Josh, this, oh no, the refs, they're disrespecting us, man. They're all online calling us the Kansas City refs, and
Yeah,
and
no, I mean that's been happening for a couple of
but
years.
they didn't understand that that's football. I mean, hey, we didn't tell the center to hike the ball, and Aiden O'Connell wasn't ready or anything like that. We didn't tell him that.
Well, exactly, exactly. The question that I ask, and I think I know where you sit, is during the time that the Patriots were ripping off all their wins, did you blame the refs for those wins? I didn't.
I did. I didn't, and I wasn't. I hate the Patriots. Let me be on record and say that.
Sure.
I never. I hate the Patriots for the reason why people hate us now. So now I understand. Now I
Yeah.
don't hate them as much. Now I'm like, oh, Patriots fans, I empathize and sympathize with you guys. Pardon me for hating on y'all for so long of greatness. They had those 9 Super Bowls and 6 wins,
Mhm.
and I rooted for any team that was going against the Patriots.
See, I did too. I never had a supreme amount of sports hate for the Patriots. I actually like the Patriots. I like Tom Brady. I didn't like losing to him by any means. I loved anytime we destroyed him in the regular season, all of what Buffalo does to us. We always lost him in the postseason, but I also feel like I kind of recognized in the moment that we were watching something special and that it's more fun to kind of enjoy the ride that you're on while you're on it. So
Right,
I was pretty young during the Bulls three-peats, the first one in particular. The second one I remember pretty vividly. That would have been high school for me when they did the 96 through 98 ones. And
mm-hmm.
I can't tell you I was the biggest Bulls fan in the world. I've always been a Michael Jordan fan, but I can't say that I was not kind of secretly hoping that the Jazz would pull, one of those off just to see something different. But at the same time, it's like, man, you watch the flu game, it's like, man, I get to tell people I was watching this at some point. So
Right.
the best side of that I've ever been on. Do you watch NASCAR at all?
No,
Did you ever get caught up in any of the NASCAR hullabaloo?
no, I I can't. I'm very like no. I've never been really into NASCAR, but I
Fair,
know
fair enough.
a ton of people who are.
Yeah, so fair enough. So just being a redneck from Kansas, I can't tell you that that was a sport that I followed my entire life, but I definitely had friends in college who did. And I had
Oh,
one friend in particular who was very into, hey, check it out. I think you'll like it. I had a guy that I worked with. So I had a job where Sunday mornings I would go into the VFW hall and clean up after the events with this one old guy.
oh wow.
And yeah, about as random as you can possibly get. But this was a dude who was a union worker in a non-union position. So we got there at the same time. We would clean the same amount of stuff. We would sit down to take a break. And when we took the break, he would pull the paper out and he would look at the NASCAR results. And I always remember sitting there watching him lose his mind that Jeff Gordon was winning. And so
Right.
this was the late 90s, early 2000s when Jeff Gordon was dominating the sport. So I
Right.
had that guy kind of giving me some of the dynamics of what the sport looked like and what fandom looked like. And then I had my friend sitting here saying, "Hey, you need to watch this. Hey, you need to watch this." So I relent to the friend. I start watching a little bit. And the first race that I really remember following and trying to totally internalize was the 2001 Daytona 500.
Wow.
And that was the race. I didn't watch the entire race, but I was invested in what the result was. So Dale Earnhardt Sr., the Intimidator, seven-time champion, just the toast of the South. It was my buddy's favorite driver, favorite of all time. So the last lap of the Daytona 500, he was, leading the race, and he got caught up in the wreck where he ultimately died. And so that was the first time I really looked at NASCAR hard, as in this is something that I might, watch. And so that's just a crazy first thing to get into and just a crazy thing to follow. So the following year after that, and I think I have my history right. So the 2002 season, Dale Earnhardt's dead. The sport's just not the same. A guy named Matt Kenseth ended
Okay.
up winning the title.
Oh
Matt
wow.
Kenseth won two races that year, and he just had a bunch of vanilla, non-exciting top 10 finishes, but it was an aggregate table, and he had the most points. And when it got to a point where he was so mathematically far ahead in their very complicated system, he essentially put it on cruise control and finished. So Matt Kenseth is a guy who's from Wisconsin. He grew up probably an hour away from where I am in Milwaukee,
Oh wow.
and probably the most boring guy in the history of the sport when it came to doing interviews. So
It's
people are
complete.
losing their mind. My buddy and all the Southern rednecks where the sport came from are just like, ah, we can't have a guy like this. So they ended up putting in a playoff system. And it was the chase for the Nextel Cup. Nextel was still a phone company that was a sponsor. So the 2003 season, that's where I would say that I really started following stuff. And so they did the chase, which was 10 races at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there, and the way that I get into a sport, and this is how I get into any sport, I'll start watching, I'll start finding it interesting, but the second that I pick somebody to root for, whether it's a team, a driver, whatever, just all bets are off. That's when I, let the thing turn into an addiction. So halfway through that season, I'm sitting here looking at people who I want to pick. And I'm a redneck from Kansas. I think that's pretty clear. But
Yeah.
but I wasn't trying to pick the standard issue Southern guy.
Right.
So Dale Earnhardt Jr. is the guy that I just took off the table. I'm like, I'm not going to be that guy rooting for the Budweiser number eight. It just not happening. Not happening. So I need to find someone else. And so Jeff Gordon was the guy that I'm sitting there going, he's the he's the guy who's the California guy that makes all the rednecks heads melt.
Right.
It still seemed to have a little bit of a bandwagon thing that I didn't particularly want. I've always been a Chevy guy over a Ford guy or Dodge or any of those other ones.
You
So
you got. I love a heavy Chevy. I
yeah,
do.
so is Chevy.
Or those.
That was part of the Jeff Gordon attraction. So I was wrong. I just looked this up. I was off by years. So 2003 was the year that Matt Kenseth
Mhm.
won that, and then 2004 is one where they implemented the chase to make sure that Matt Kenseth never did anything like that again. NASCAR has always just been fast to make rules to drive competition in the way that they want to, even more fast than the NFL. But so the guy that I ended up gravitating towards is a guy named Jimmy Johnson. And
Uh-huh.
so Jeff Gordon, he was on Jeff Gordon's team, Hendrick Motorsports, and he was on in some capacity Jeff Gordon's payroll because Jeff Gordon owned his car.
Right.
And so Jimmy Johnson, that first chase, it was just incredibly compelling. Every single lap that went by, it was a change between who was actually going to win the title if the race ended. And so I was sitting there just glued to the TV watching this final race. Well, it came down to Jimmy Johnson and a guy named Kurt Busch.
Oh
And
wow.
Kurt Busch ended up winning by, I believe, 7 points. And so Jimmy Johnson didn't win a title. Well, years go by. Jimmy Johnson wins a Daytona 500. I'm like, yeah, I like this guy. I like this guy. He's from San Diego, El Cajon, which is the, crappy suburb of San Diego. Uh, and I think he said he grew up in a trailer racing dirt bikes and stuff like that. But anyway, so Jimmy Johnson was like the guy that I gravitated towards, and he got really close to being in the hunt for a title a number of years, and it never happened. I'm just like, God, maybe this is never going to happen. So one year he finally gets over the hump and he wins the title,
Hmm.
and then he wins it again. And then the third year, there's one guy in NASCAR history at this point who's won 3 titles in a row, and that's a guy named Cale Yarborough. So remember the videos that ESPN did where it shows the back end of the Daytona 500 in like 1979, and two guys get out of their car and start a fist fight?
Yes.
Cale Yarborough is one of those guys. So he
Oh,
won 3 in a row.
okay.
And so like Richard Petty, the king of NASCAR, 200 wins, 7 titles. Dale Earnhardt Sr., 7 titles. Those guys never did more than 2 in a row. And then Yarborough does 3. He's a Southern guy. That's fine. When Jimmy Johnson got that third one, it was like watching people's brains melt. It was just completely unheard of. You had this guy from Southern California, and Jeff Gordon, of all people, owned his car. He was part of Hendrick Motorsports, just complete disaster. Everybody's just losing their mind. They're cheaters, they're this, they're that, and blah, 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 blah. Well, so Jimmy Johnson won 2 more. He won 5 in a row.
Oh, that's
Absolutely insane. And then he later went on to win 2 more individual ones. So he has the same number of titles as Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Richard Petty.
oh
And
wow.
so my friend who got me into the sport, I think he genuinely hated me in a NASCAR sense for an extended period of time because I go and I pick this guy, and he
Right.
knew it wasn't me bandwagoning anything because I picked him when he was nothing. And that was the guy that I gravitated towards, and he's one of my 3 favorite athletes, that I just think about, that he's one of my 3 favorite athletes. And just somebody that I followed. He's now a team owner and everything, but it was crazy watching at the beginning, everybody just losing their mind. And now he's thought of as this elder statesman of the sport. And there's like this nostalgic, he won 5 in a row. That was crazy. And I'm just like, okay, all of you guys can F off because you hated him and me the entire time that was happening. And so that's a really long story that was probably not completely necessary, but that's what I really
No,
felt
segue.
watching people talk about the Patriots dynasty, and it's like, oh, they got the refs on their payroll and blah blah blah. So I never really felt that. I didn't
No.
care about Deflategate. I'll say that out loud.
Yeah.
I didn't really care about Spygate. Deflategate was even crap. I mean, I read that 80-page document that came out after Deflategate, and what I really got out of it was that the NFL did not choose to control the ball,
Right.
which is ridiculous. I mean, apparently 13 pounds is the way that they like it. Tom Brady liked his deflated to 12. Aaron Rodgers liked his inflated to 14. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there you go. So there you
I
go.
got onto that whole weight of the ball thing either
Well,
because I
exactly. So now, I mean, watching
quarterback
everybody.
has the right to have the ball the way he wants it. If
Exactly,
Brady
exactly. The NFL didn't control it. Do whatever you want. I mean, that's how
Rodgers
the NFL
and
operates. They control everything they want to.
what is Mahomes? Mahomes is he at a 13 or is he
So I haven't read through the rule book in a long time, but I think they actually established after that there is a weight, and it's 13.
mm,
PSI, 13 PSI. So it's not necessarily a weight, but it's 13 PSI of inflation, pressure and everything.
mm.
But what I'm really getting at is that watching everybody hate on the Chiefs, this is like the third time that I've seen this in my lifetime that I've been invested in something to some capacity.
It's
Uh, it's the second time where I'm on the correct side of everything.
you're on to something here, Josh. You might be the good luck charm for that.
So maybe I am. I don't know.
It might be something weird like that. But yeah, that's to me that's insane. Like last year, oh, they can't back to back. Then once they back to back, I'll never bet against Mahomes again. I'll never go against
And here we
15.
are.
Like, oh, they're not that good. We can beat them. So every week, everybody thinks that they can beat them, and that's the whole drama of the
Exactly.
everybody's chasing the Chiefs. You're
And,
trying
and,
to,
it, and it was the same thing the Patriots did, you know? And so, I mean, I traveled this last week. I was in Houston. We didn't see each other because why would we make that work, you know? We were kind of passing on our holidays celebrations and everything, but I was in Houston, so I drove down to Houston from Milwaukee and then back up. And so we stopped in Little Rock, Arkansas, we stopped in St. Louis, we stopped in Dallas, we stopped at a bunch of places in between.
Mhm,
And the most common thing that happened, because I wore a Chief something pretty much everywhere the entire time,
mhm.
walk into a restaurant in Ardmore, Oklahoma, Two Frogs, which is right off of I-35 in Ardmore. Incredible restaurant, by the way.
Really?
Best chicken fried steak I can recall having. But so go in there, and the guy that goes to see this, he's just like, "Oh, your Chiefs sure have the refs on lockdown." And this has kind of turned into an instant reaction of like, "Yeah, no, totally, completely agree with you." It's crazy that Taylor Swift will call down from a booth and tell the refs to make
Yeah,
the center snap the ball into Aiden O'Connell's chest and make sure he's not paying attention. I don't have time for this crap. Like,
exactly. I
I don't
mean,
have time. I'm not going to ignore people and not,
series,
acknowledge the fact
and
that they're talking, but I will not entertain in this.
yeah, I know it's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like Taylor Swift is telling them, "Hey, do this."
Well, exactly. No, nobody's doing anything. This team is breaking the NFL, and it's incredible to watch. The Patriots broke the NFL. The one thing I feel bad for fans of teams that aren't Kansas City and New England is you had to watch these two things back to back with no real relief in between them.
Mhm.
I'm also really sorry people are upset, but that's
Yeah,
it. It's the only
yeah,
thing that I really give anybody any kind of real credit for. It's just they're playing at a different level,
yeah.
and that
Always,
that gets into this game. That gets into this game. People are losing their minds, thinking the Chiefs aren't any good. That includes fans of the team.
yeah. Isn't that crazy?
It is. It's crazy. And sometimes I sit there and I ask, am I watching the same thing? And I know I bring up watching Nick Wright and kind of echo his comments pretty often, but he's a guy who I think is really the guiding light for the Chiefs, and so I'm gonna bring it up again.
Yeah,
And I think about this game against the Raiders. And so they get to a point where they're up 19-17, and it's essentially get a first down, and you can seriously consider icing the game away. And so it's 3rd and 2, and then they throw that long play to Worthy, and Worthy almost makes that catch. So, I was watching First Take today, or First Things First today, and Nick Wright just goes, "Look, here's what I liked about that play. There is no way that anybody with a straight face can say that in a situation where you need 2 yards to get a first down and potentially ice away a game, that any combination of Matt Nagy, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, or Xavier Worthy thinks that that's the best play to run to get 2 yards.
right.
It's insane. So why did they run that play?"
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Nick Wright's theory is that at some point, Xavier Worthy is going to have to make a big play. And then he pulled up the tape and showed MVS's catch on roughly that same route, but it was just a play action pass in the AFC Championship against Baltimore last year,
Yes, it was.
where MVS makes that catch. And Nick Wright's comment is on 3rd down with 2 yards to go in a game that's within 2 points. That is how you put real life pressure on Xavier Worthy just to see if he can make that play and if this is a play that works.
That's right.
That makes a ton of sense to me.
It makes a ton of
A
sense to me.
ton, a ton of sense to me. And then
And
I
what
go back to
what
two.
is your thoughts on Xavier Worthy this year so far?
So this was his best game. He had 5 catches.
He did.
Um, Worthy is getting on Mahomes' page.
He,
Um,
finally
I've
get.
been quite upset with Worthy having his feet not in bounds when a ball comes, but at the same time, Mahomes is overthrowing him a little bit. I don't know that they've 100% gotten his speed in sync. There's a rhythm piece that hasn't happened, but it's getting closer every single game, and it was pretty close this last game, and he dang near made that catch.
Yes,
Think about what this world looks like if he makes that catch. I'll rip off another Nick Wright comment. Tuesday morning, he's talking about that Broncos game, and Bo Nix, rookie of the year, blah blah blah. Take that one 90-yard play, which was incredible, by the way.
it
That
was.
one 90-yard touchdown pass out of his stat line, and he had a bad night.
Yes, he did.
Bo Nix had a bad night, but the team won. They put up a boatload of points, and he made that play.
He made that play.
And I don't know if that's the best throw of the season, but I can't tell you one that I think is better, without any thinking about it.
Yeah,
That was a laser that he threw.
yeah.
And I really think that it's crazy. If the Chiefs hadn't won back-to-back Super Bowls, 11-1 would matter more.
I think so.
But we're
I
looking at style points, and it's the thing. It's like we're being ridiculous, and I'm saying the royal we football fans in general and analysts, everybody, the real talking heads that get paid on TV to do this, and then the people like us that do this because it's fun. Uh, there's a bigger majority of there's a majority of people, so a bigger group of people, a majority of people that I think are trying to believe, whether they want to or they actually do, that the Chiefs are frauds of some standpoint.
Yeah,
And I don't believe it.
I don't believe it neither. I don't believe it, and I feel like you know, we're gonna finally have that real pull away game against the Chargers. Everybody is picking the Chargers to win and upset us. Oh, they have the best defense, but we got to understand that Pacheco just came back.
Yep.
He looked good. You know, uh, I think we're going to see more running with him and Hunt. Hunt didn't really get off as much to me in the last game.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that they're going to go back to that. D Hop, if we just stick with the uh, D Hop, we'll be fine. You know.
Well, exactly. I just I can't shake the thought that the Chiefs aren't truly playing every single play like it counts.
Right.
I
No,
just I'm not seeing it.
no, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it either. But I'm so glad that we're winning. You know,
Well, exactly.
I
But
believe.
Mahomes dropped back 46 times. Just looking at the box score, Pacheco had 7 carries.
Right.
Hunt had 7 carries. So 46 pass attempts, 16 carries.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we supposed to learn from that game? That Andy Reid doesn't like to run the ball? Okay, I think we kind of knew that, but that's obnoxious. That split's obnoxious. So let me ask you this. What's anybody who watches the tape from that game supposed to learn?
Um,
The answer is nothing.
nothing.
The answer
Nothing.
is nothing.
Nothing.
So the Chiefs won a game to go to 11-1 and they put nothing on tape.
They put nothing on tape.
They put nothing on tape.
Nothing. And we're going into a game this week where it's a divisional rivalry, uh, and they have a good defense, but
Sure.
we do too.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
people are forgetting that our defense is actually better than theirs.
See, I think everybody's starting to convince themselves that our defense sucks again and we're back to 2018 Sutton ball.
Yes, yes, that I'm seeing fans say that.
Well, exactly. It's like, well, we're not generating turnovers. Okay. We're not generating a pass rush. Okay. I mean, Amenahue hasn't really played.
Hmm.
He was supposed to be a pass rusher. FAU hasn't really materialized.
No, he hasn't. He hasn't.
But, when's the first time that you would have considered Mike Dana a key part of the defense?
Yeah,
Year 4 of his career? Maybe.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
now he's the guy that's integral.
that's right. That's right.
I just we aren't picking in the top 10 where left tackles and edge rushers are can't miss.
That's right.
We aren't. We haven't been.
That's right.
The last time we picked in the top 10, we took a guy named Patrick Mahomes, whoever that is.
Yeah,
And we
2000.
had to trade to get there.
Yeah, we traded to get there. Yeah, we went up from what, 26 to 10?
I thought it was 27. Well, here, let me look this up. I think it was actually 27 to 12. Let's see here. No, sorry, 27 to 10. I'm a horrible fan for not knowing exactly what that was, but let's see here. The Bills 27, yeah, 27 to 10. So we traded up 17 picks. That's the last time that we picked in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
I just, what are you talking about?
So yeah, and so the guys that we're getting, like you're saying, we're getting them at the end of the first round, but we're really getting second round talent.
Yeah.
And ain't nothing wrong with that. It paid off heavy with Rashee Rice. I
Well,
mean,
exactly. Exactly.
getting
Exactly. The one argument that I've seen that I put some level of stock in is that we've gotten accustomed during this really elite run at getting production from our draft picks,
mm-hmm.
and we're not necessarily seeing that this year. So running down the list, I think Worthy is impactful. I really do. He's scored touchdowns, and again, he's getting on the same page with Mahomes. We're going to get Hollywood Brown back before this playoff run.
I'm
So,
I'm excited to see him.
yeah, exactly. So, we're going to have Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Juju. We had a big catch from Justin Watson. We'll talk about that one here in a little bit.
Wasn't that great?
We've got Noah Gray catching ball. I mean, that Mahomes is the all-time touchdown pass leader
Yeah,
on
yeah.
that play.
Noah Gray is having a hell of a year, and nobody.
Gray's putting stuff together, but the rest of the draft picks. So Kingsley Sumaitiata, that one sucks. I wanted that first name, if nothing else. I
Yes.
wanted that guy to work out. That one's unfortunate. Wanya Morris is taking a ton of heat. I feel bad for both of those guys for not figuring it out, but they're not getting it done.
Hey,
Um,
Jawan Taylor. Jawan Taylor is a good lineman. I just wish he stopped bagging up so damn much. You know,
well, exactly, exactly, and that was it. I mean, how did he go from a key part of the line to on the Jags to just hot garbage when he came here? And I don't think he did. Um, but he has been probably the easiest piece to pick apart on our line. Let's be honest. He's probably the easiest part to pick apart on our line. But so fourth round pick, Jared Wiley. Um, there we are. Other fourth round pick, Jaden Hicks out of Washington State. Then Hunter Norzad, who's a center. He was
now
never going to play. He was never going to play.
Hicks had a good game against the Raiders. I was reading something where they were
Yeah,
going to start him or something.
but you're backing up Creed Humphrey.
Yeah.
You're not playing. Kamal Hadden, cornerback from Tennessee. Be nice to see something out of him as well. CJ Hansen, guard out of Holy Cross. Guards and centers are not going to be playing.
No, not at all.
They're not.
At all. But
Trey
Hicks,
Smith, Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey. So the most unfortunate one is Kingsley. Um, we needed him to come in and take that left tackle spot.
we did.
Yeah, that's what we needed more than anything. Jared Wiley, like to see more there. Jaden Hicks and Kamal Hadden, those are guys that would have been good. But Jared Wiley's on the IR, so we still don't know that we don't have anything with him. Can't call him a bust.
No, we can't. We
We
can't.
can't call him a 2024 contributor, but we can't call him a bust.
I think the only contributor that we can really see in 2024, Hicks definitely. Um, I'm gonna go on the line and go on the fence and say Worthy,
Yeah.
kind of Worthy. I'm still kind of straddling that fence.
Um, Now, has he been what I guess you would traditionally say, oh, first round pick, blow it out of the water? No, he hasn't. I mean, clearly he hasn't. But if we look at his offense, 33 receptions on 61 targets, I think I'd like to see that average better. But
Me too.
at the same time, what are you going to do? But then let's see here, 407 yards, so that's 12.3 yards a catch, four
Yeah.
touchdowns, 54-yard long. He's got 23 first downs. I mean, he's got two rushing touchdowns. He's going 4.5 yards per carry with the 21 yard, which was week one.
Yeah.
Um, so he hasn't been bad, but he's still, you know,
See,
he's a contributor. He's not a first round pick that comes in and carves a spot out.
you're on the fence with X-Man Worthy a little bit, you know?
I'm on the fence a little bit, but I'm happy he's on the team, you know. And realistically speaking, who else were we going to take that first round of the draft?
I mean, I honestly wanted Ricky Purcell that went to that went to San Francisco.
That spend most of the season on the IR.
Yeah, and that's what I said too. I was like, oh, aren't you glad that they didn't get that guy?
Yeah, because I mean the guys that were picked after Worthy, um, the Cowboys took Tyler Guyton, tackle from Oklahoma. The Ravens took Nate Wiggins, a cornerback from Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
Then the Niners took Ricky Pearsall, and then Xavier Leggett rounded out the first round.
Yeah,
So I think an interesting what if is Xavier Leggett in
yeah.
this offense. That would be an interesting one, but I I I don't know. I mean, I guess what's your thought on and then the beginning of the next round? So Keon Coleman, Lad McConkey were the first two off the board. McConkey to the Chargers. McConkey in this Chiefs offense might look pretty good.
Kind of, yeah, yeah.
that might be the correct pick from there, but we'll see
It,
how this goes.
McConkley has been having a season.
But I'm not ready to cut bait on I'm not ready to cut bait on
Worthy.
Worthy.
No,
Hey,
me.
Keon Coleman, I mean, he's had two impactful games this season and he spent a lot of time on the IR.
Yes, he has. Yes, he has. He spent a lot of time on the IR. God, they up talking about the ER.
I mean, I'm not going to tell you that this is real by any means or anything to truly base decisions on, but fantasy sports are, you can call it either a leading or a lagging indicator.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I'm looking at Keon Coleman's stats. So he has three touchdowns, 417 yards, 22 receptions on 36 targets. So he's caught a greater percentage, but he has fewer catches than Worthy. He has fewer touchdowns than Worthy. He's got half as many touchdowns as Worthy,
Yeah.
and he's got two games. Um, we'll say three. Week 5 against Houston, 7 against Tennessee, 8 against Seattle. He's got three games where you weren't better off leaving him on the bench in a
Mm-hmm.
PPR league. It's three games where he gets the double digit points. I mean, you can't say that guy's gone out and blown anything up, and he's got Josh Allen throwing to him.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Leggett's the what if because I don't know about Bryce Young still.
Mm.
But, oh
Yeah.
well. So, yeah, anything else from that Raiders game that you have from a takeaway standpoint? I think we're both just kind of in the happy that they won and let's move
Yeah.
on. But any other thoughts to add?
That I was just very happy. That's a fate win to me. FATE,
Yep.
not FAE like everybody is saying. That's a fate win. That one right there is. I'm just glad we got out of there with 11-1, and I'm just ready for us to do damage against the uh, Los Angeles Chargers. My God, I almost called them San Diego
Just
Chargers.
call them San Diego. They're the San Diego Chargers. Just
I
stop.
almost slipped up and said San Diego. I had to catch myself.
They're the San Diego Chargers. They've got a few less fans, only a few.
Right.
Wise from San Diego would be throwing something at me if she heard this, but I say it in front of her all the time, so it's fine. Uh, yeah, I mean, We got a 3-game lead on the Chargers. This isn't a must win, but I'd really like to see a win.
Uh-huh. I really would. I really would.
Really like to see a win.
Now,
Buffalo
do you?
Buffalo plays the Rams.
Uh-huh.
So the Bills finish the season out. Rams, Lions, then Patriots, Jets, Patriots. Um,
I only see one loss for the Bills.
yeah, I do too. I do too. But the general word on the street is that the Chiefs have this, horrifying gauntlet of a schedule, and the Bills have an easy way. I
Right.
mean, only one loss. I don't know. Do you want to sign up to play the Rams tomorrow? I don't necessarily.
Eh,
I mean, I think they're incredibly beatable, but then
That
it's the Detroit Lions who I would say like half the people are picking them to be the NFC rep in the Super Bowl. I think
right.
you've got a growing 30% at this point that's picking the
Eagles.
Eagles.
Yep.
And then you have the final 20 of the rest of everything that's splitting their time between the Niners are going to turn this around. That's not happening, by the way. The uh the Packers are going to make a run. I guess the Vikings could turn and make a run. But
Mhm.
looking at the rest of the Chiefs schedule, so Chargers, Browns, Texans, Steelers, Broncos. I mean, that's harder than what the Bills have, but I'm not going to say that it's night and day worse.
And you know what's crazy? I only see one loss there, and then that one loss, I don't see the obvious loss. Like I don't see the Steelers. That's one that people are thinking, hey, I told you about them this summer. I was like,
Yeah,
hey,
we're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into that. That's the next topic. So what do you see as the loss?
honestly, as crazy as this sounds,
You're gonna say the Browns.
yeah, I got a funny feeling crazy famous Jameis praying not to get any more pick sixes. It's a team like that would shock everybody. Like, oh wow, can you believe the Browns beat the Chiefs? And they're not going to the playoffs. I see a win against Chargers. I see a win against the Steelers. I see an overtime win against the Steelers. I think that's going to go down to the wire. I think we're going to sweep Denver. We're going to. I don't think we're going to rest the starters at the end because
Okay.
we're getting that first round bye, and I think that Mahomes is going to be like, no, we're gonna go on and play because I'll rest up next week.
hmm
I
hmm
don't know.
Okay. Houston, Saturday.
Houston Saturday.
Houston, Saturday the 21st. You think they get that one?
I think they get that one. Yes,
Okay. Okay.
that's in Arrowhead.
It
I just
is. It is. So I think the easy loss to pick is Denver, but
yeah
yeah. Okay. So Steelers, you were on them from the beginning.
yeah
And at this point, I'm not going to call you crazy. I did at the beginning of the season.
yeah.
You clearly weren't crazy. You were seeing something. Biggest thing I'm going to point out, you're not crazy, but this isn't a done deal. You
No, it's
know, the Ravens are a game and a half behind them. It looks like because the Ravens have played an extra game.
okay.
Um, so Steelers, their remaining schedule is Browns, Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs, Bengals.
I
Um,
lost, and that's against us.
I don't know that I necessarily trust the Steelers to win that Week 18 game over the Bengals in Cincinnati. That might be a Joe Burrow playing for pride,
Right.
and that could, in theory, be Jamar Chase's final game, and it's in reality probably T. Higgins' last game.
This is gonna be T
So
Higgins.
there could be some band breaking up type of thing, and that's either going to be the best show on the tour or the absolute worst one, and I don't think there's a middle ground.
Right.
If it's the best show on the tour, I could see them getting the Steelers. Um, sorry, that's a game in Pittsburgh, so I'm less sure about that. But they go to Baltimore and they go to Philly. before they host us. So they host the Browns and they're on the road to the Eagles and the Ravens. I
Mm.
don't think it's unheard of that they drop two of those three.
Yeah, yeah. I think I see two losses there. I don't know if they can beat the Eagles. The Eagles are catching fire at the right time.
Yeah, but so let's say they lose to the Browns this weekend. You know, the Browns come off the loss to Denver. Jameis's prayers are answered and he doesn't throw
Yeah,
any pick sixes. By the way, that was hilarious.
very hilarious.
That was hilarious.
I
Um,
funniest guy in football, and he's not even trying to be funny.
well, exactly, exactly.
Hilarious.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. My jury's still out on the Steelers. It shouldn't be, but that's a tough schedule to end the season. The Browns are dangerous with Jameis. I
Yeah.
think that, about as big of a what if for this season is what if Jameis would have played the from the drop.
Right. Right.
That team is different. The Eagles and the Ravens. If the Steelers win both of those games, I take them seriously as a Super Bowl contender and see Chiefs Steelers AFC Championship game
Uh-huh.
as fundamentally on the table. But I think they lose at least one, if not both of those. Um, Ravens pull that game off. This is an interesting end to the season within that division.
Yes, it is. Because
And I can't get past the idea of the Bengals just having way more to play for from a pride standpoint than the Steelers that week 18. I don't trust week 18 games. Well,
me
I'll
neither.
just say that out loud too. I don't trust week 18 games.
Me neither. Because that could be a game that we lose. We could actually win, and that could. Most experts think we're going to lose week 18.
I mean, if you want to talk about the ones that I think look like easy losses to predict, it's week 18 in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
We lose the last week of the season in Denver, often enough.
Yeah.
That just seems I don't know. That feels like a game you lose.
Yeah. I don't. And right now, Denver's in second place, aren't they? In our division, or
No. No, no. Nope, they're behind the Chargers.
mm,
So looking at the standings, Bills have locked up their conference. Um yeah. So the Bills have locked up their division,
mhm,
not conference, their division. So they're 10-2. The Dolphins are 5-7. The Jets are 3-9. The Patriots are 3-10 and eliminated officially.
mhm.
Horrible. In the North, the Browns are 3-9. The Bengals are 4-8. Neither of those teams are eliminated. They are. They just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
Um, Ravens 8-5. Steelers 9-3. Texans 8-5. Colts 6-7. Titans 3-9. Again, another team that's eliminated. They just don't know it yet. Jags have been eliminated at 2-10. Trevor Lawrence with a concussion to pretty much end his season. We'll talk about that play here shortly.
Yeah.
Then the Chiefs 11-1 to the Chargers 8-4, the Broncos 8-5, and the eliminated Raiders 2-10. Let's look at what the playoff is today.
Okay.
If the season ends today, the Chiefs are the one, the Bills are the two. Game separates them. The Steelers are the three. A game separates them from the Bills. The Texans are the four. A game separates them from the Steelers. So 11 for the Chiefs, 10 for the Bills, 9 for the Steelers, 4 for the Texans, or 8 for the Texans. That's your top four.
That's your top four.
So you have the Chargers at 8-4, half a game ahead of the Broncos and Ravens, who are both 8-5. Then you have the Colts that are 6-7. So I'm just going to say this out loud. I think the playoff teams are the playoff teams. I don't see any change within that top seven.
Any changes at all? I think
None.
in that order.
The order, the order might move around, but the places that we have to move, I don't see anybody taking Kansas City out of that top four.
Mm-mm.
Buffalo's not being taken out of that top four. Houston's not getting taken out of that top four. So the only place to move is if the Ravens manage to flip the script on the Steelers, they can get into that top four and host a game.
Mhm.
And then it's just where do whichever one of the Steelers, Ravens don't make it up, and the Chargers, Broncos last end up. That's really what we're playing for is seed position. So it's if the season ended today, the Bills would be hosting the Broncos, the
Mhm.
Steelers, the Ravens, and then the Texans, the Chargers.
Texans out. Chargers will beat them in the wild card.
I mean, in that situation, I would see Buffalo wins as a home team and the other two teams lose. If
Wow.
I'm Pittsburgh, I want nothing to do with the Ravens coming in for a playoff game.
Nothing. Yeah.
Absolutely nothing to do.
Yeah, that's true. That's true because the Ravens are what at pick six, the sixth seed or something.
Correct. That would be the 3-6, the Steelers and the Ravens. And I don't know. Chiefs 1, Bills 2, Pittsburgh/Baltimore 3, Houston 4,
Mm.
Chargers 5, Pittsburgh/Baltimore 6, Denver 7.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like, okay, I see what you're saying. You're saying the way if it and it's probably going to fall like that. So you're like, no way the Ravens get sent home in the steel curtain up there at
I
Heinz.
don't think there's no way they get sent home, but I would not be surprised if the Ravens come in as a 6 seed and knock off the Steelers at home.
I can see that.
I could
That's
see it.
very doable. That's very doable if they just stick to the run, like run behind Derrick Henry. Run-
Exactly. Exactly. And that first game they stick to the run and they knock off the Steelers and then they go and start trying to get cute and pass in the second round and get sent home.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But either way, like you say, because they're six, right? So the lowest seed would play us. So the lowest seed that would play us that wins.
Yeah. So in the scenario I described, we would be hosting Baltimore.
It'd be Houston, Baltimore.
No, it
Absolutely.
would be us hosting Baltimore.
Yeah.
So in the play if the playoffs went today, Bills over Broncos.
Yeah.
Broncos aren't ready to go to Buffalo and win a game.
No, they're not.
Ravens over Steelers, and then Chargers over Texans. The games would be Chargers at Bills, and we would host the Ravens.
Oh, and that's great for us
And in
because
that scenario, we're hosting the Bills again in the AFC Championship game.
AFC Championship. That's right.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm seeing it now. I'm thinking AFC Champion. At the beginning of the season, I was thinking Steelers and Chiefs. Now it's probably going to be Bills and Chiefs. 1 and 2 are going to be standing.
Yeah.
Josh Allen is going to get the MVP because they want to give him the MVP.
Yeah.
All Saquon Barkley is having a massive year. You know.
Yeah. No, he is. It's insane. On the NFC side, let's just run through this. So we have Lions, Eagles, Seahawks, Falcons. That's the top four. 11-1, 10-2, 7-5, 6-6. Good God, what a drop off.
What a huge drop.
Then and then we have the Vikings at 10-2, the Packers at 9-3, and the Commanders at 8-5.
Mm.
I mean, that's turned into a tough conference. It really has.
As with the NFC South, I got a funny feeling that Baker is going to take that from the.
I'm with you. I'm with you there. So, um, Lions and Eagles, it's who ends up with a better record. I think that's going to be a compelling race, for the 1 versus 2 seed. Um, the Lions, look beatable in the way that the Chiefs look beatable. I expect them to close the deal and be the 1 seed.
Yeah,
Uh, Eagles, I think, have the East knocked down sooner than later.
yes.
So then the Seahawks are 7-5. The Cardinals and the Rams are 6-6. The Niners are 5-7. I'm kind of out on the Niners at this point,
Seahawks keep winning. Isn't that weird?
but I could see the Cardinals being the ones that end up being the division winner.
Yeah,
Regardless, I think we're seeing one team from that division get in the playoffs.
Yeah.
From the South, it's like, what are we doing here?
What are we doing here? I think Tampa Bay is going to take that from Atlanta,
I agree. I'm with you.
and then the five team would be.
So right now it's the Vikings.
Yeah,
So it goes Vikings, Packers, Commanders. I think the Commanders are the 7 seed.
I do too.
And so really what we're looking at is where the Vikings and Packers end up. And I mean, I guess I could see a world where the Lions slip up and lose a couple of games and one of those teams makes it to the top line and wins that division, but I'm pretty much expecting the Lions to close the deal. I think the Vikings end up a game above the Packers. So I think that 5, 6, 7 is pretty much what it's going to be. And really, what we're looking at is for those two teams, the Vikings and Packers, who gets the opportunity to go to Arizona, Seattle, Atlanta, and Tampa.
That's right.
Because I think we're going to have three NFC North teams in the divisional round.
I do too. I do too. And
And if I'm the Lions,
uh,
there is nothing that I am less interested in seeing than the Packers
beat the Lions.
come to Detroit. There is nothing I'm less interested in than a Packers playoff game.
That's going to be tough because the Packers are looking great now. They're catching fire.
The Packers, just traditionally speaking, in my lifetime at least, and granted, I don't recall the '80s when they sucked in the pre-Favre era, but in my entire just completely comprehending football, the Packers own the Lions,
They
and I'll tell you, everybody around this area where I live, there's nothing they want more than to play the Lions in the playoffs.
mm,
And last year everybody was salivating when they were playing the Cowboys. They're just like, "Cool, we're gonna win a playoff game." And I'm
right.
just like, "Dang, that's pretty cocky." And then look, the Packers just genuinely believe that they have a Lions number,
You see an
and
up.
I don't have anything historic to point at to say that's not the case.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, if the Packers are already slated at 6, so
Yeah.
they'll play the Eagles.
No, so in this scenario, it would be Eagles Commanders. Who do you got on that one? You know you
Uh,
got you know you
Eagles,
got the Eagles.
got the
Yeah.
Eagles. Then
So
the
then it
three,
would be either Seattle or Arizona
either one of them could
or
beat.
the Rams against the Packers. Who
Neither.
are you taking over the Packers in that scenario?
I'm not. I can't take either.
Exactly. And then you have the Falcons or the Bucks playing the Vikings.
Ooh, I got the. Yeah.
The Vikings are just a team that I'm conditioned to not trust. Again, this is, I've lived where I do for too long,
Right.
but I would genuinely see the Vikings and Packers winning that game, at which point the Vikings would go be slaughtered by the Eagles in Philly,
Yeah.
and the Packers would go to Detroit.
Mm,
That is a hellscape scenario if I'm a Detroit fan.
yes, that
There is
is
nothing that I want to see less than the Packers green and gold coming in for a playoff game.
right because
There's nothing I want to see less.
right, historically, the Packers can come in there and send them home.
They do. They do. It's just the Packers and yeah, like fans would go over there in big mass. They would be up for that game. It would just be that would feel. In fact, if I'm thinking about the people that are picking the Packers to be in the Super Bowl, that is honestly the path that I see him getting there.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
going through Detroit as a wild card team.
So let me go on to that. So if they, because you're right, historically, that's the team that's the most troubling for the Lions. So they send the Lions home in the divisional round, and they're in the NFC Championship playing the Eagles. And that means now the Eagles at 2 will definitely host the NFC
Yeah,
Champion. So with that being said, you think that they have enough juice to beat the Eagles?
coming off a win over the Lions, yeah, why not? I mean, you're in
Mm,
a why not scenario.
yeah.
I don't know. Do you really trust Nick Sirianni over Matt LaFleur?
No.
I don't know that I don't. I do. Is Josh Jacobs really that much of a drop off from Saquon Barkley?
No, but it's their defense. What
Packers
does
have a good D.
they huh?
Packers have a good D.
Oh, and they could probably put all that in check, huh?
Yeah. So I don't know. That NFC side of the bracket might be interesting. And those are the scenarios that I see as interesting. I think this gets interesting if we have three NFC North teams in the
But
second round in the divisional round.
this just popped up in my head.
And in a lot of ways I'm not seeing a very tough path of that happening.
Those NFC teams, as a Chiefs fan, who makes you more nervous to play in a Super Bowl? The Lions, the Packers, or let's throw a wild card in there. Let's throw damn Tampa Bay.
Well, so the three that I would throw in there, the Lions, the Packers, the Eagles, I would
Mm-hmm.
put them as the pool that I trust most to get to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is I don't trust Minnesota because I just don't.
I don't either, and I'm not.
Um,
I don't trust Sam Darnold. I don't.
yeah, and yeah, so selfishly, the one I want to see the least is the Packers because I have to live here for that 2 weeks of build up and
Oh
and
my God,
and and,
wouldn't that be horrible if
and from an
three ended by the Packers?
implication standpoint. So right now, the Chiefs have four Super Bowls, and these are the types of things that I look at this point. The Chiefs have four Super Bowls. The
Mm-hmm.
other teams that have four Super Bowls are the Giants and the Packers.
Mm,
And so I would prefer to not play the Packers in a Super Bowl until we have one more than them. Just to be
right.
completely honest, because I have to live here.
So let's say the Lions. You know, most people's favorites. They just think the Lions have this whole division locked up. Say the
Yeah,
Lions actually get over that hump, beat the Packers for the first time.
yeah.
Woo! Do
I mean,
you
I
think
think that sounds like a hell of a story. I really do.
it does?
I think that sounds like a hell of a story. Uh, that would be interesting. I mean, again, everybody's heads would explode around here until they realize, they're still better than the Lions in every discernible way that you could match aside from the here and now, and it would be fine. But no, just from a history standpoint, I mean, this last Super Bowl, getting past Denver and Oakland with three, that was so huge.
Yes, it was.
That was so huge. And so now they're sitting tied with the Packers and the Giants. When they get into five, that's Niners Cowboys.
Mm,
Six is Steelers Patriots. So I am very invested in the Chiefs getting to seven and being able to say this is the best team ever.
right.
You know, I'm more invested in that than Mahomes getting eight and passing Brady.
Yeah, me too.
One of those is
So,
more
I'm
one of
more.
those is more rational of a thought, but yeah, I would love nothing more than the Chiefs to put themselves in a spot with the Niners and the Cowboys, being modern,
Right.
more modern. That's that scenario. That's my rooting motivation when I want them to win another Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's those historical tiers. This has gone from one before I die to, yeah, all right, let's dream now. What it was one before I die. You know,
Hmm.
so we always got to sit there and say, hey, they won a Super Bowl. 11 years before I was even thinking about being born.
Right.
So that's cool. But I get to sit there and say that the team has that, and then Denver had our number forever, so I had to watch them win two in a row. You know, have to live with the fact that the Raiders have three Super Bowl wins.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, two of the three happened before I was alive, but So did the one Chiefs Super Bowl until we went on to this current run. So that one before I die thing happened in the 2019 season,
Right,
early 2020.
right.
Getting back that next year, it's like, all right, yes, we're allowed to dream. Beating the Eagles, it's like, yeah, we've tied the Broncos and Raiders. So
Right.
now we're allowed to have parity and we can dream again. And then this last year, it's like, all right, now this is like a different level of history we're chasing.
Yes, it is.
It's like they need to close the deal and get to that 5 and 6 and 7.
Yeah, but you know what?
Run
I'm gonna
this.
double down, man, as a Chiefs fan. And this sounds really crazy. If we could three-peat something that has never been done, I don't care if we win another Super Bowl. We've got history right there. But of course we'll win another Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you, but from a personal standpoint, this is another part of why I don't get that, wound up about seeing them only beat the Raiders by two. If they never have another winning season, I'll be able to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this has been just so awesome these last handful of years. Granted, that's not what I want at all. I want 7 Super Bowls.
Right.
I want 7 Super Bowls. And in an ideal world, it would be enough to pass like the total number of titles that the
Yeah.
NFL teams prior to the NFL AFL merger in the Super Bowl area happened. If
Right.
you can get to a point where you can say you have more championships than the Packers do, that would be great.
Yeah. Yeah. To say you got more championships than the Patriots. That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, I believe when you talk about, let's see here. So list of NFL champions from 1920. Okay. So we want to go through total. So the Packers won 11 NFL championships from 1920 to 1969. So they're at 15 with Super Bowls.
Wow.
So that's a long way to go. The Bears won 8. The Giants won 4. The Lions won 4. The Browns won 4. And then you have Eagles, Colts, Canton Bulldogs, and a bunch of other ones. There you go. But um, you want to talk about unbreakable. If you want to count championships and Super Bowls, I mean that Packers number is probably the closest thing to like DiMaggio's 56 game hitting streak
Right.
we're gonna see.
Right.
Unbreakable records. The Bears having a lot. And the part that's crazy about it is that the Packers were 11-4 winners, runners up. The Bears were 8-9. The
Mm.
Giants were 4-13. So, that's 17 title games for the Giants and the Bears, and then 15 for the Packers pre Super Bowl era.
Mm.
So wild stuff.
That is wild. That is wild. But now, realistically, do you see us getting this three-peat, making history?
I do. I really do. Really do.
Mm-hmm.
I will believe that that's happening until that team is officially mathematically eliminated at the final whistle. I believe it's happening until it's physically impossible.
That me too.
Hmm.
I'm seeing that too, and I don't have any doubts that we don't make it back to the Super Bowl. I think we will. Uh, it just feels that way, but I don't know, man.
Yeah. So, one more question before we get into final takes. Hit on Trevor Lawrence. What are your thoughts on that one?
Well, I didn't think the guy did it on purpose. So the more I keep looking at it, his momentum, the way he was going, he's a linebacker, so he's trying to attack. And Trevor got out of the pocket. And I'm not a big fan of the slide because, I've seen quarterbacks, our quarterback, hell, he fakes the slide. That's one of his moves, and then he keeps on going. So I think the guy was just trying to get a hit, but the way he came down on him, it looked like it's on purpose because he has such a bad rep. He has a rep of being a dirty player. But at this, it's kind of like crying wolf. You know, if you're always lying and scheming and conniving, and the one time you're telling the truth, but it catches up to you, it's almost like, well, he was telling the truth, but no one believed
Yeah.
it. And I think that got him the 3 game suspension. Some people say he should have been out for the season.
Yeah, and I'm more in the camp where that could have been a 1 game suspension. That was probably fine. I think when you can cuss a guy who's a high paid quarterback, he's supposed to be one of the top. He's not. There have to be consequences. And that's just, whatever. That's the sport we're in. That's it.
Mm.
But I saw a comment where Tom Brady said that maybe we should be fining quarterbacks for not sliding really.
Yeah,
I don't know. There might be merit to that.
might be more into that. You,
Yeah,
you, so I don't know. He definitely got punished. It's because stuff that he's been doing all season. But I just think that was one of those. Oh, we're gonna teach you a lesson. You don't hit our golden boy.
yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
quarterback with the great hair that we think is an elite quarterback, but he's not.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
All
Crazy.
right. So, final takes. What do you got?
Final takes. Um, we got some championship games. Big 12 championship. I got Baylor winning that one. SEC championship revenge. Texas Longhorns will beat the Georgia Bulldogs. I got Travis Hunter racking up all the awards the next weekend. I think he's going to get the Heisman. He's going to get the Bolitnikov. He's gonna get. I think he's a finalist for the Nagurski too, the best defensive player, and all. I think he's gonna sweep that. I think he's gonna do a great job. Um, yeah, I, you know, there. I think Colorado is going to a hula bowl or something, some small bowl, and I don't think Deion Sanders is coming back. But that's a conversation for some other time. I don't.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I'm gonna stay in college football.
Okay.
I absolutely 100% hate this playoff format.
Yeah, me too.
This 12 team thing is absolute freaking garbage. It is absolute garbage. We're solving nothing. We're creating more problems. And the part that I can't stand more than anything is the amount of time that we have to sit and watch Paul Feinbaum's stupid face
Yes,
talk about how many SEC teams should be in this. It is absolute crap.
it
It's
is.
crap. It's crap. It's crap. It's crap. The entire format is just stupid. We need to go into a geographical 64 team pool play and knockout. I'm going to write the article that I've been meaning to write for 2 years about this. It's absolute crap. I'm sick and tired of the conferences. I'm sick and tired of hearing the acronym SEC. It's crap. It's stupid.
Yeah,
It's starting to make college football very hard to follow. I've
it is.
never met a sport that I don't like and follow. It makes it incredibly hard to follow.
It does.
And if the goal is to try and come up with ways that 12 seeds can win titles, I mean, by all means, we're right on the money with that.
Yeah,
Because we're going to sit here and let all these underachieving SEC teams come in the 10s through 12s and yeah, they might go out and win a game against Boise State. And it's like this entire thing is just so freaking flawed that it's not even funny.
no, it's not.
Like it's not fun. This isn't interesting. I think they had it right with the 4 team playoff. I really do. I was more I was more on board with the two teams. I understand the argument of going to four, and I didn't like four because I knew that the next step was more. And I don't know. I'd rather see 64 teams with 16 groups based on geography, and you play pool play, and you have, geographical rivalries, and then you do a 16 team knockout bracket.
Right.
And that would just set better than having to listen to like Paul Feinbaum. If there is anybody that I could get off TV, it's him. I cannot stand that guy. I hate his face. I hate his voice. It just all you're sitting here doing is sucking off the SEC conference, and it's crap.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just garbage.
Yes, he is. Yeah, it's I'm like you. It's not interesting, man. I really
Yeah,
care who's gonna win the national championship because it's hard to predict it with this 16 deal.
exactly. And that doesn't make things interesting.
No,
That's the part about it. It doesn't make things interesting. I mean, if I so here's the article on ESPN. The anger index. Why Ole Miss and Miami should both be furious over Bama's. What are we talking about?
yeah, yeah.
What are you talking about? The anger index? Just
It,
make this geographical. I would love to get to a point where there can be some actual rivalries that aren't in the SEC.
that's right.
And it's got to be just a play towards geography, and the SEC has done the best job of keeping their geography.
Yes,
But every time that they expand and take teams in Columbia, Missouri, Norman, Oklahoma, and Austin, Texas, you're watering all that stuff down.
yes. You are watering it down.
There's a difference between making a drive from Baton Rouge to Oxford, Mississippi to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, than from driving from like Athens, Georgia to
Oh,
Columbia, Missouri. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
no, not at all.
Yeah.
Not
And
at
it's
all.
just the biggest public enemy in all of this is all these stupid conferences. Just none of them make sense anymore. Just get rid of them.
Just get rid of them. Yeah.
Dump that brand and turn this into geography.
Yeah. Turn it into geography.
Turn it into geography. I mean, just start making it close to home, And I think it's really just there there are never more. 64 is the number. I could even be talked into this being 32 if you want to have, a bigger pool, but it's like the regular season should be group play.
Yeah.
The regular season should be group play based on geography. Make this a thing where we can bring the traveling college student fan back into things,
Right.
and then go into a knockout from there. Because there's a difference between. I'm trying to find these rankings here. This is just college football playoff. Here's the other thing. Why is this so hard to find this bracket?
Yeah. Yeah. Why
Okay,
is it?
I can't even find it, but like four buys. Like get out of here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's a difference. So Boise State is going to win the Mountain West and get a bye. Okay? I
Hmm.
believe that winning the Mountain West is actually an accomplishment. That doesn't necessarily mean that you get to go and like stand toe to toe with the SEC. And I understand anybody that makes the argument. And now I'm justifying Paul Feinbaum. But
Yeah.
if you would go geographic, if you had a group of 16 teams geographically based, Boise State's going to have to play Oregon. We're going to learn something about that team. They're going to have to play USC. They're going to have to play UCLA. They'd probably be playing Colorado. Just you have a chance to learn something. And when they make it into a knockout,
Right.
it just means more.
Mm-hmm. It
Just
be
means more.
it means a whole lot more.
Anyway, I just want this all to look more reasonable on paper, and the matchups to just mean more, and there be less questions.
Yeah.
And making it out of a group play, there aren't questions.
Yes, they are.
you can sit there and pick away at certain victories, but it's just like, no, this was not a, all the NIL money is in the SEC. It's just the NIL money, it becomes more capitalistic in a good way.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there you go. I hate the conferences. There, that's it.
Me too.
All right. Well, we I've ranted a lot. I know that.
So, hey. No, you had to get it off, man. You had to get it out.
Yeah, there you go. We've waited too long in between these. So let's not make that mistake again. We
Nope.
will be back next week.
Sweet.
And until that time, go
Chiefs.
Chiefs.